Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready, we're not gonna sit back.
Welcome back, all you listeners and viewers of the Live from the Heartland show. Our next guest is no stranger to the show. She comes on pretty regularly, sometimes when I need her in a hurry. And she's usually got a lot to say. And I recently got an email that talked about a bill that Kelly Cassidy has introduced in the Illinois State Legislature, at least in committee, that will add some protection to trans people. Kelly, tell us, good morning to you.
Good morning. It's always good to be here, even when we don't plan ahead.
And fill us in a little bit on this bill that you sent out information on that I got in my email and said, oh, let's bring her on the show.
Absolutely. So it's really just another piece in a puzzle that we have been constructing for years to make sure that regardless of what happens at the federal level, our state laws do as much as humanly possible to install protections for both reproductive and gender affirming care. And in this instance, this bill is sort of the second half of the puzzle. Last year, working with chronic pain patients, we limited law enforcement and other agency access to a system known as the Prescription Monitoring Program, which is a nationwide system that was set up, frankly, as one check on the opioid crisis, but has turned into a tool that's used to overregulate access for chronic pain patients and to surveil folks who are taking any number of medications, which was never its intent. It was really intended to make sure that people aren't doctor shopping and getting more meds than are safe. And so last year we limited access. This year we are just straight up removing testosterone from the prescription monitoring program in Illinois, and taking that further step to ensure that any of the other drugs that they're rattling sabers about trying to track at the federal level. So, we're talking about medication abortion. There's various drugs that are involved. People are very familiar with Miffy and Miso, but there are other drugs that are used to induce abortion. So we want to make sure that if they try to elevate any of those to scheduled status, they won't show up on the PMP. Same with any of the other gender affirming care drugs, whether that's puberty blockers, estrogen, in various forms. So we want to make sure that we're being proactive, anticipating attacks and putting up shields where we can. So this one is critically important. It was very well received in committee, except for, by my Republican colleagues who would probably like to just ban access, period. But the Democrats understand what we're trying to do, and they were enthusiastically in support of it.
Mm-hmm. So I see why this is really necessary. Obviously, we had the Supreme Court decision this week as well about conversion therapy. So how does that factor into this conversation?
Well, I think one thing that's really important for everybody who's listening to know, we're really, really used to the Supreme Court doing deeply, deeply terrible things and people having sort of, hard feelings about it, right? Like it's a gut punch each time our rights are taken away. This one's a little bit different. It's a little nuanced, and people were freaked out because it was an 8-1 decision. It was a purely procedural decision. This decision does not overturn Colorado's ban on conversion therapy, nor does it touch any of our bans yet. This was really about telling the lower court, the Colorado court, to use a higher level of legal scrutiny with regard to talk therapy, which is most conversion therapy is as much talk as anything else. And it's very abusive talk. So to apply a higher level of scrutiny to ensure protection of First Amendment rights, that's what they have. That's the order from the court. They're coming back. They will ban conversion therapy. They will overturn our laws. And we're ready. We've already begun putting pieces in place to make sure that we continue to protect, whether that is looking at agency rules and how we implement things. So we can do some of that without passing legislation at all. But we've also got legislation teed up and ready to go to make sure that folks have another legal avenue to use. None of these decisions will have anything to do with medical malpractice suits, for example. They can't possibly touch that. They can't touch the fact that every single licensed professional medical organization has in their code of ethics that this is abusive and contrary to their code of ethics. So there are disciplinary paths that still exist, even in a world where state bans are overturned.
Kelly, let me ask you, what goes on in these conversion therapy sessions, and who are these people? I mean, are they Christian types? Are they born agains? Do they do role playing? You got any insight into what the hell goes on in for someone trying to be converted back to being a guy or a girl?
Yeah. And I mean, it's sexual orientation and gender identity that gets attacked here, but it can be any number of things. And in meeting with survivors, there's straight up just, abusive talk. You're dirty, you're filthy, you're horrible, right? Those are real. But there are also some pretty horrific examples of, physical abuse, I want to make sure I say it clearly, aversion therapy. So, the kinds of things that you hear about, like every time you try to smoke a cigarette, you snap yourself with a rubber band, and that teaches you to associate your, smoking cigarettes with the pain in your wrist. Only this is every time you become aroused, you get a shock. That kind of stuff. It's horrific stuff. And honestly, I've known people who've been through it and they're marked for life. Mm-hmm. This is something they carry with them. Their parents may have betrayed them by doing this. Their faith may have betrayed them by doing this. The lasting impacts of this abuse, it persists. Like the people that we met with were, there were some fairly young members, young survivors that we met with, but also folks who were, well on in years who were still marked by their experience.
And of course, it's not necessarily tied to a particular religious faith. It's an extreme interpretation of some facet thereof in some cases.
Right. I mean, there are secular providers and there are religious providers for sure. Absolutely. I remember when I came out to my mom and she asked me to meet with a priest, and we were freaked out, honestly. I mean, and as it turned out, the guy was leaving the priesthood and he was on his mandatory 6 months in another parish until think about whether he was giving up his vows. So I met with this dude wearing like a Banana Republic vest and smoking a cigarette with his feet up on the desk going, your mom's pretty freaked out, but I'm going to tell her it's okay. Like I feel like God was put this man in my way so that my mom could be okay with me being gay.
Yeah.
Kelly, I know you have a meeting and we're got a tight schedule here. So I'm going to ask you one more question, and we live in a district, in a ward, an area of Chicago where there are a lot of gay people. Yeah. And you, as I understand, are the only lesbian in the state house. And I wonder what that's like. First of all, it surprises me when you have gay candidates running around the country, seemingly to victory a lot of the time. And here we have you, a very outspoken person who's done a lot of great stuff. And all of a sudden, I find out there are no other gay women in the legislature.
Well, I was joined this session by a bisexual woman. So there are two queers in the House now. But yeah, I have been solo for a minute. And it can be tough. There was our high watermark was 6, 5 in the House and 1 in the Senate. Lots of them have gone on to other offices, which is great. But I would love some company. So anybody listening, get yourself to a Victory Fund training, get yourself to an Emily's List training. If you've thought about running, do it. There's absolutely no reason not to take a swing.
Kelly, I want to thank you for coming on Live from the Heartland. I know we'll have you back not too far off. And people can find you if they want to talk to you. Kelly.
Absolutely. Cassidy. Kelly at repcassidy.com. I'm on Insta and Facebook and Blue Sky. I'm on almost all of the things, but I left X.
Well, we love you and we love our audience. So everybody.